So we begin our sit today, just valuing being at ease with the conditions of the moment, not in conflict, not thinking that I need a different experience of my body or mind. But instead, we explore making peace with the conditions in the body now, the conditions in our hearts and minds, just as they are. This valuing of relaxation is actually a deep practice. We're moving from being somebody, being a meditator who has to do the meditation, just being aware, being awake, being sensitive, knowing that it's like this now. It feels like this now. And in this relaxed way, just recognize the knowing that whatever experience is predominant, like feeling the body sitting, that it's being known, being felt. Or if there's some obvious activity in our mind, this activity, this thinking is being known. And if there's some emotional content with the thinking, this emotional content is being known, being felt. So we're learning to be curious about this relatively subtle aspect of our experience, that it's being known. Moment by moment experience, our experience is being known. But only if we remember to recognize the awareness. It's so easy to slide back into our habits, and we forget that this experience, we forget that it's being known. And it's easy, because of these habits of our mind, to be dismissive, basically to think that it isn't important to recognize the knowing. Really, this is the necessary ingredient to be truly intimate with our experience, because experience always involves the experience being known. It's just that we tend to be forgetful of that second part. So, because of that, we have a confused relationship with experience, whatever it is, a thought, bodily sensation. Even if we're in moments frustrated or bored or struggling in one way or another, the practice is to recognize that the struggling is being known. Even the attitude can be recognized. The mood is being known just as it is. The way the mind is relating is being known just as it is. We will continue sitting for another 2 or 3 minutes. And remember, we're valuing relaxation and remembering to recognize that this is being known. Recognize the knowing. Keep recognizing the knowing as best we can. And even when we get distracted, as soon as we realize we've been distracted, then there's already the knowing there, right? The knowing that the mind's been distracted. So no need to get upset, no need to be tight. And all this activity of the body and the mind, including our mood, our attitude of mind, all of this is what we call nature, a natural process. All of this so-called personal activity of me meditating is being observed as the unfolding of a natural process, the unfolding of nature. And this is what we call wise view or right view in Buddhism. There's experiences being known. And this is a natural process unfolding here. And personal in that sense. So just play with what we call wise view, seeing things as this natural process for the last minute or two. Take a little time to adjust your body, stretch some if you want. Good to see everybody here today. Thanks for showing up in the building and thanks for showing up online, those of you on Zoom. I mentioned last week that felt like a good time to review some basic instructions for how we practice. And what are we practicing? Well, we're practicing this wisdom awareness. It's probably not a bad way to talk about it. You know, words get overused, even like the word mindfulness. and awareness. So always have to shift it around a little bit so that we're not just in our idea of it, but it's the words, the concepts are pointing here now to the natural process of like me being me. But as a student of the Buddhist teachings, right, then I'm cultivating something different than, what an ordinary person does, right? Ordinary person, and by the way, we're that ordinary person. What we do is our mind immediately gets lost in the objects of our experience and our thoughts about the objects of our experience. So like, I'm seeing all of you, and then the concept, oh, I'm seeing the folks at Common Ground, or I'm seeing the big screen at the back of the room with all the Zoom folks there. But what that misses is this is being known. Whatever it is, the visual experience of those of you in the room is being known here and now. And so this is what makes us a practitioner, a yogi, you could say, a student of the Buddhist teachings, is that we're interested in this, we're interested in being intimate with reality, you could say. But reality isn't our thought about who I am or what's happening to me right now. Our reality is something more simple. There's always only two things. It's always this way, every single moment of our experience in life. There is an experience, an object, through one of the five sense gates, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Or we're also sensitive to mental activity, to thoughts, right? So there's one of these or some combination of these 6 ways we're sensitive happening. But that would be irrelevant without the is being known, right? Doesn't help to have a sensitive eye or a sensitive ear or sensitive skin without that recognition that it's being known. That's what kind of makes us human, right? The combination of experience being known. But when we're going through our day, we don't recognize the is being known. So just to review for people who weren't here last week, and of course we record the talk. So on our YouTube channel, Common Ground Meditation Center's YouTube channel, not all, but most of our programs are up there. I almost always record mine for sure. And then on dharmacy.org, you get just the audio. On the YouTube channel, of course, you get the video as well as the audio. So I mentioned last week, coming from one of my teachers, Sayadaw U Tejaniya, this is my own sort of riff, but he talks often about the importance of relaxation. Not so much trying to be relaxed, but valuing being at ease. Because whatever we're doing in our spiritual practice, at least, and maybe in almost everything we do, getting tight may be totally understandable, but it's not functional to get tight. Does it make us better at whatever it is we have to do? And in terms of our spiritual practice, it definitely doesn't help to be tight. Because being afraid, being greedy with our practice, all the different ways we might get tight, it actually distorts the clarity, the tightness does. So we want to value relaxation. It's important to be we're never going to be perfectly safe, right? It just doesn't come with being human. We're vulnerable in so many different ways. That's just how it is. But we can relax with that. We can learn to relax with that because it is this way. Things are uncertain for us humans. And if it were functionally tight, if it made us more likely to survive or more likely to be happy, we'll go for it. But when we check it out, getting tight makes us tight, And then not only that, it distorts the clarity in our heart, in our mind. So we're just slightly or greatly less functional because of the tightness. So we value relaxation, and then we remember to recognize awareness. That whatever's happening in the object, the particulars of what's arising in our experience as thought, as mood, as sensation, as sight, as sound, relatively unimportant. What's important is that there is an experience and it's being known or felt. Right? So we're developing a very particular mental muscle, you could say, which is that capacity we all have to recognize what the mind is doing or knowing in this moment. So like right now, what is your mind knowing or doing? Can it be recognized? And if you feel a little self-conscious, oh yeah, self-consciousness is being known. Or I'm tired of hearing this, Mark, is being known. So just to get that there is this particular mental muscle or mental capacity, spiritual capacity. And are we at least interested enough to check it out? To start cultivating. Sayadaw Tejaniya, this Burmese monk, he says, I mean, he's just making this up, but 60-40, 60% of your attention should be directed to the truth of your experience that it's being known, and 40% to what it is that's being known, right? So more, this is a huge shift because it's probably 99% focused on what it is that's being known. And then, like I mentioned a moment ago, getting lost in our thoughts about our experience. And almost 0% of the mind is directed to or sensing that it is being known, that whatever the object or experience is now, whatever's predominant, that it is being known. Hearing my voice is being known. Feeling the body sitting is being known. And I use that phrase a lot, and you should also check out if that's helpful. Like you can silently in your own mind, this is called if you haven't heard, like the mental noting or mental labeling technique. It's an important part of our tradition of the insight meditation, what we call insight meditation or Vipassana meditation, coming out of some of the monasteries in Burma where they would, when they're practicing day and night, as long as they're awake, make a little calm mental note about what's being known. Even like when I was practicing in Burma, the Sayadaw, the teacher, would even encourage us to mentally note or label each time you blink. Blinking is being known. Swallowing is being known. Stepping is being known. And you can just use the noting in a way. You're not trying to get obsessive or neurotic, because it can be, like, oh, did I note that? Because right then, what you would notice or note is like doubt, right? I'm having doubt about whether I noted previously, right? So doubt. The important thing is the noticing. So the question is, what techniques, what skillful means, help us recognize in every moment there's something being known. So it's like a powerful deconstruction, which helps us be actually profoundly intimate with the way it is. Because that's what it means, to be human, something being known. You can think of the most sublime moment of your life, it was something being known. Or the most disgusting, most intense, most disturbing moment of your life, it was also something being known. Every moment is that. And you see how it really leads to this part I didn't get to last week, the fourth instruction. So valuing relaxation, remembering to recognize awareness, not to do awareness, but to recognize this capacity, right? Because it comes alive as soon as we remember to recognize, oh yeah, it is being known. This moment is being known. So the only thing we can do is forget to remember to recognize. And then we want to keep recognizing that this is being known. That's the third. And the fourth instruction that I just touched on for a few moments last Sunday was this, sometimes Sayadaw will talk about it as checking your attitude, checking how the mind is relating right now, like with what attitude, what mood, what perspective, what frame. It's like every moment there's some sort of lens, some sort of perspective through which we're understanding the moment or making sense of the moment or connecting with the moment. Sometimes there's a wanting to how we're relating or an aversive tint to how we're relating or a dull tint or a restless tint or so what's the perspective, what's the quality of the mind, the way the mind's relating now? And also related to that attitude or the shape or lens shading of the mind is whether the mind has wise understanding, or sometimes the Pali word is sama. It usually gets translated as right, but I just find the word right understanding or right wisdom a little triggering for me, because it's right, wrong. Sama, the Pali word, it really means complete or like a view, wise view, right view is really the view that's complete. It's in alignment with reality. And when we see this experience in terms of the idea of I, me, and mine, this sort of taking things personally, we call that not wise view, right? That's self-view. And it has real implications. So this fourth instruction, sometimes Sayadaw would even say, you only have to do three things. You need to have wise view or right view. You need to recognize that you have right view. And you need to keep recognizing that you have right view. So whether we like this or not, spiritual, especially the way the Buddha frames a spiritual life, it is a path of wisdom. It isn't about just being good. I mean, being good is really important, like not causing harm, being a generous human being. But what causes so much of the suffering in our lives and in our communities is this absence of wisdom. That's the missing ingredient. The world is the way it is. My life is the way that it is because of the lack of wisdom, the suffering that I experience, the suffering that we collectively experience. So the spiritual path is about transforming ignorance, abandoning ignorance, and becoming wise. And becoming wise means coming into alignment with the way it is. And ignorance is defined as being out of alignment with the way it is. The word dukkha, which gets translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness, that basic dis-ease, being ill at ease in life, it actually has to do with an axle or a wheel being out of alignment. It's kind of an earthy word back that the Buddha, when he was teaching, he sort of said, I'll use that concept of something out of truth, something out of alignment. And it kind of built his whole, like how he articulated the spiritual path around that concept of dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, suffering. It's because the way we perceive, the way we think, the way we understand isn't in alignment. So initially, like as a practice, we value relaxation, we remember to recognize awareness, we keep recognizing that this is being known. And in checking the attitude, we're getting better and better at noticing, like, is my mind relating, framing, seeing things in terms of I, me, and mine? So like a good example would be pain in the body. So we're sitting, but it could be during daily life practice too. But let's say we're sitting and after a while, back will hurt or the knee will hurt or we'll feel restless or something will happen. And there'll be some discomfort. So when we start to experience some pain, then we want to value relaxation. We want to remember to recognize throbbing is being known or burning is being known or whatever the particular texture of the physical discomfort is. We want to keep it in mind so that continuity of present moment awareness, yeah, throbbing's being known, not liking throbbing is being known. But this checking the attitude or this issue of wise view is like in a playful way. Right? Because like I said, initially we're borrowing wise view from the teachings of the Buddha. It isn't our own understanding quite yet, right? But we might understand it intellectually, we might be interested in it. So it's just like looking at my body, feeling the pain that I'm feeling, let's say. Oh, it's just the throbbing being known, right? There's a way to like even now feeling your own body right now and hearing Mark talk right now, you could add like that frame. This is happening to me. I decided to come to Common Ground, or I decided to get on Zoom this morning, and I'm listening to this Dharma talk by Mark Nunberg, and this is what I think about it. Or in a sense, you can step back and realize all of that is fine, like whatever your mind is doing, whatever way it's thinking about your experience. But stepping back and just seeing all of that activity, the hearing, your thoughts about what you're hearing, even your sort of conceits you have, like, I really get this, I'm so proud of myself. Like just seeing all of that as nature. Not so even even the ways the mind might thinking in a self-centered way, even that can be seen as the activity of nature. Just like if you were you're sitting on a bench watching a bunch of kids play at a playground, and they're happy and they're fighting and they're doing what a bunch of kids at a playground would do. And you can kind of, in a sense, settle back and see all that activity. From the kids' point of view, it might be really self-centered. Like they were first in line, and why is this person butting? And that's not fair, and it feels very personal. But from somebody sitting on the bench just watching the 20 or so kids having all their little happy dramas and unhappy dramas, it could really be seen as, oh, this is just like nature. Same with you watching a bunch of birds at a bird feeder, because it's a little war. If you watch carefully, it's like who's bigger and who's got a bigger bark, or more aggressive persona. But you could just sort of easily see that as that's just nature. There's nothing really that personal about that activity of the birds or the activity of the kids. Well, it just so happens that's true even in terms of our internal experience, like what I'm saying to myself and the way my mind is complaining right now and the way my mind is feeling embarrassed or wanting so much to be somebody I'm not or I don't think I am, and all these seemingly very personal activities. Well, that's just nature. It's just that experience, that mental experience being known. And this is really important because sometimes when we get this wisdom teaching from the Buddha about things being impersonal, we wrongly interpret it as me personally has to start pretending or acting as if it's not personal. But we can still act in our ordinary conceited ways, taking things personally and being personally offended and feeling some personal pride over here and all these things that we human beings feel and express, right? But what we're doing is we're, in a sense, it's not a perfect way to talk about it, but in a sense, we're stepping back and we're observing our external and internal activity as an unfolding natural process. Not I, me, mine. And that what's unfolding doesn't have to be different than what it is. Like some of you in this room, maybe myself included, right? We're a real piece of work in terms of our personality. And we might think, but oh, I need to get my personality, in check, modified. Probably need a lot of, some serious therapeutic interventions. And then I can be empty of self-centeredness. But we don't need a different personality to realize that the personality that's here is nature and not self, not personal. And that's really an important thing to reflect on, because it can send us down a wrong path. And this is not an uncommon stink in Buddhist communities, where people are trying to look like they don't have a self, like being really even, or really withdrawn or dispassionate or something like that. But it's the actual experience is we're more who we are, and there's a lightness as our personality expresses itself. It isn't like it's missing the overlay of somebody who thinks this is who I am. So we navigate our lives, the choices in our lives, the conversations, the interactions, the preferences. But there's more and more often the absence of the overlay of taking it in terms of I, me, or mine. This is about me. And the way we begin that is, as a Sayadaw would teach, Sayadaw Teshani would teach, is just to start in your sits and then throughout the day to start checking your attitude. And it could just, again, it can be helpful to internally to language your practice a little bit, just as an initial support. So like periodically today, just to ask yourself, how's the mind relating? How's my mind relating to whatever you're relating to, like whatever's happening in the present moment, doesn't matter. But how is the mind relating? Is it taking in some subtle or not so subtle way whatever is happening personally? Or is it seeing it as the activity of nature? Is there some greed going on in the mind? Is there some aversion going in the mind? Is there some kindness in how the mind is relating right now? Some spaciousness? So you're just interested, like, how's the mind relating? What's the mood? What's the attitude of the mind? Is it peaceful? Is it agitated? And it's hard initially not to see this as a kind of judgment, so like, first you all of a sudden, because you make the resolve now to want to check your attitude, then when that memory comes up, oh yeah, check my attitude, it might initially be a freeze, and then there might initially be like a finger wag, like, yeah, how is your attitude, Mark? Is it right or is it wrong? But in terms of our practice, just being interested in the present moment, and especially being interested in something relatively subtle in the present moment, well, there's a lot of wisdom right there, a lot of skill. If anything, we should be really appreciative to have the inclination to want to check the attitude, to be interested in what's subtle, what is normally the mind is oblivious to, just doesn't have any inclination to kind of watch. And remember, if you do feel some awkwardness, not to be thrown off by that awkwardness. That's just the next thing. So then you notice the attitude, and then you notice how awkward it is, like almost like, oh, I shouldn't be looking here. It's too personal, or whatever sort of weird resistance that you might experience. but just that's being known. That's what we're learning to do, is see that whatever the attitude is that's operating in the mind, it's something that can be observed. You see, and it just reinforces the idea that this is not I, me, or mine. If I can observe my mind being neurotic, or observe my mind being really wholesome, loving, patient, easeful, right? Well, if I really see that that's something being known, I'm also understanding its nature, not self. It just brings in this kind of, we talk about forgiveness and patience and um, equanimity, dispassion, but it requires this simple wisdom of understanding there are just these two things. There's an experience and it's being known. And we learn, with simple things like being with the breath or being with the sensations of the sitting body. Oh, yes, sitting is being known. Feeling the contact of the butt on the cushion is being felt. But then we're moving to more subtle and seemingly personal aspects of the present moment, like our mood, like our attitude, like our fears and our anxieties. And oh, that's also something being known. That's also something being known. And one of the things you start picking up on, which is just great, because it will really help with that first instruction to value relaxation, is we'll start to see all the little and bigger manifestations of I'm the meditator, I'm the practitioner doing my practice. And we'll just start seeing how clunky that identity is. Like that's also nature, like being the one who's going to be directing my attention in this way, or being the one who's supposed to be walking a little bit slower and being mindful, and that's a big chore. Like all of that attitude of I'm burdened because I'm somebody interested in being mindful all the time, and this is a cross I've decided to carry through life. But we'll see that. We'll see, oh, that attitude is being known. It's just that, construct idea that the mind is entangled with being known. That is the proximate cause for abandoning what is extra, what is unnecessary. We don't let go until wisdom sees something clearly. When wisdom sees clearly that the mind is entangled with something that's heavy or unhelpful, then letting go happens. Not because you or I let go. The cause for letting go is seeing the unnecessariness of whatever the mind, the habit of mind is up to. We have to really see it. We have to see, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, the ridiculousness, like the unnecessariness of all of what our mind tends to do. Tends to worry, tends to plan things it doesn't need to really plan, tends to second guess things that don't need second guessing, tends to compare things that don't need to be compared. Now, a lot of those things we will need the mind to do. They're just part of being a functional human being, like the comparing mind, the discriminating mind, the analyzing mind, the problem-solving mind, right? We need those skills. But when all of those natural skills, capacities of the mind are infused with a sense of self, of me, then we tend to keep going back to them. It's like the tension of me being the doer, doing things. Well, that tension of being the doer, doing things becomes very, very familiar. And it's like we start to be unfamiliar and even strangely frightened by not having that tension of being the doer who needs to do something. It's a very interesting thing, like whether you're formally meditating or just settled in your life, and the mind just drops a lot of what's extra. It can be it's like it needs to be an acquired taste. We don't trust. We feel guilty that I'm not worrying about something, I'm not planning something, I'm not regurgitating the past in some way or speculating about the future in some way. Another well-known teacher said once, we all, most of us at least, like the idea of peace, but we don't really know what a peaceful mind is. We may not like it initially, the peaceful mind, because of our habit. We've gotten addicted to the intensity of self-view, of self-centeredness. That's how we feel alive. Just, am I going to get what I want? Will what I want be taken from me, or what I have be taken from me? I mean, even as an intellectual exercise, it can be useful. This is a useful use of imagination, like to imagine this, me with these circumstances that I seem to have, but without self-centeredness. It would be so free, wouldn't it? I'll write that talk, but there's no personal fear of it being a lousy talk or personal attachment to it being a great talk. I'll do the dishes, but no entanglement with, is it my turn? Is it really my turn to do the dishes? Where are we in that cosmic balance of home chores? I definitely don't want to be at the losing end. I mean, it would be like such a personal failure to somehow like be taken advantage of. It's like these weird things that the self-centered mind, self-centered orientation kind of makes big. How do I stack up compared to other people? It's so free, like whatever we do, whether you're raising kids or you're a cook or you're whatever you do in your life, it's so nice to be all in without all the self-centered entanglements about being all in. But to do that, we have to develop all four. And in a way, I put the fourth instruction at the end, but it could be the first, which is, to recognize, to be relating with wise view, to recognize you're relating with wise view, and to keep relating to the present moment with wise view, which means, again, initially maybe borrowed from our teachers, from our tradition, that, oh yeah, there's this happening, right? I can be aware that this is happening, but can I add in that whatever's happening, whatever I'm experiencing, whether it's what we would call internal experience or external experience, whatever it is, it's a natural process unfolding. So even though being up here in front of you all feels personal right now in what you would probably call a normal way, right? Public speaking. But anybody can have the capacity to see this exposed personal experience that I'm having as an unfolding natural process. And then part of that, like trying to be good at it, feels like this, or trying to sort of pretend that it does, I don't care what you guys think. Like that, it's just like whatever it is, however this personality handles the experience, it's just that being known. It's part of that natural unfolding, isn't it? So when you go home, let's say you have people you live with at home, you go home in a few minutes, just to have that reflective presence, like as you do the most familiar things with your dog, with your partner, with kids, if you have kids at home or roommates or whatever it might be, all alone on your couch by yourself, for some of you, whatever your home experience is like, just to realize that this is just a natural process unfolding. That is a very powerful idea that we just want to get comfortable with, even as an idea, because it will shift our experience, our actual direct experiencing. And this is that fourth instruction. So that would come first. And then in the context of wise view, value relaxation, remember to recognize awareness. Oh yeah, this is just being known. That really is the setup for seeing the natural process unfolding, to keep wise view in mind, right? And then just to keep recognizing awareness. It's really not that much. And remember, these four instructions are as good during daily life as they are on a 3-month Buddhist retreat or sitting for a half an hour in the morning or whenever. You don't need, all the other instructions can be woven in to these four things. Whether you're doing formal loving kindness practice or mindfulness or breathing practice, or working with the hindrances, difficult experiences, it's really good to remember wise view. Oh yeah, this is just a natural process unfolding. And I value relaxation. Whatever I'm going to do, whatever I'm about, I don't need to be tight. I may end up being tight, but I don't need to think that tightness is required to be skillful right now. I might fall into tightness in all kinds of ways because of habits, but I'm going to value relaxation. So even being relaxed with tightness. Oh yeah, I'm really tight. And if there was something I could do, I'd do it. But I'm going to be okay with the tightness if there's nothing I can do, obviously, that I can do. Oh yeah, this is being known. Can I keep that in mind? Keep awareness in mind that this is being known. And I'll just end by reminding us that this image of a mirror for some of us is really helpful. Like this part of the mind that we call awareness, it's not a perfect metaphor, but it is helpful. Like it's just reflecting. That's what it does. It reflects what the mind is knowing, or you could say it reflects what the mind is conscious of. So then we know what the conscious mind is conscious of. So observing isn't a bad word, it's just we're observing, but it isn't anybody doing the observing. It's just observing. We're observing what? And that brings us right back to wise view. We're observing the natural process. In Buddhism, sometimes we'll use that phrase causes and conditions. And it's just the natural unfolding of causes and conditions. I put in the, there's a Google Doc that's on our calendar under this program, both the Tuesday night that I teach and the Sunday morning that I usually teach. And in that, I have several of Sayadaw Tejaniya's books that you can download for free from the internet. Dhamma Everywhere and Gathering Gold Dust is the other one I linked to. And then he has a little cheat sheet on a wise attitude that's just, I think, 1.5 pages, so that you can get your own resources that you can keep with you. And if you want your own paper book instead of digital book, there's a great organization, nonprofit in the United States that distributes Sayadaw's books. It's called Wisdom Streams. And I think you'll find that, I forgot to put the link in the document, but if you just search Sayadaw Tejaniya and Wisdom Streams, I'm sure it will show up. And then you can just order a paper book from them if you want to have that next to your bed. I was just thinking I'm going to do a 2-month retreat this summer, and I thought, I really don't want to bring my phone and my computer, even though there are a lot of good Dharma stuff there. But, like so many of us, I'm somewhat addicted And I just don't want the temptation I just want to put all that down for a couple months. But so I thought, I was thinking today as I was preparing the talk, oh, these books are great. It's like, I was thinking, oh, like write to some of my teachers and see if I can have a phone conversation, like a practice interview with them during my retreat. And I might do that still, but I thought, oh, these books, it's like having Sayadaw right there, because all of those books were just distilled from conversations he had with students who were on retreat. And then someone transcribed them and edited them so they kind of work as a book. But it's really just the give and take of this Burmese monk with so many, mostly Westerners. The ones that got put into books were when he was teaching Westerners. Yeah. So check that out when you get a chance. A couple other things before we end. I'll be leading a day-long retreat on Saturday, the 22nd. Everyone's invited. That's both online and in person here in Minneapolis. It's my month to lead the monthly loving kindness practice group. That will be this Friday, 7 to 8:30. That's a drop-in group, again, both in person and online. And Shelley Graff, the other guiding teacher, excuse me, is going to be leading practice out at our retreat center for 2 weeks from the 5th of the 4th of April, sorry, until the 18th of April. So for those 14 days, I forget exactly how Shelley has set it up, but you can go out for different periods of time. You don't have to go out for those 2 weeks. You might go out for 2 days or 4 days. But you can get more information by contacting the office. Great time to get out and see Common Ground's retreat center that we've built over many years now. Really a beautiful, simple place for, 10 to 20 people to go and do practice together, kind of family style retreats up there. That's it. So, we have small groups. These are always optional, but it's a chance to get to know people in the community. Lucy is here today. So Austin, who's doing tech today, will pass the hosting to Lucy so Lucy can introduce, but it's just a chance to chat with a couple community members about what you heard and how that makes sense in your life. Dan, you have a couple announcements?
Yeah, just one housekeeping, and if you're able to grab one more chairs and help us bring them downstairs, much appreciated.
Yeah, just the folding chairs go down.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for coming, everybody. Stay if you want to